Oh my goodness, you have got to watch this show. We cover heart centered leadership and what it really is. And we dispel some of the myths and we give some support strategies. And we also cover conscious leadership. What the hell is that? Well, if you want to find out, tune in today to Exponential Potential. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Exponential Potential. And today we're examining leading with love and purpose. So, strap on in for a transformative journey as we explore the profound realm of leadership. And I'm joined by the remarkable Jennifer Evans, who's a true luminary of transformational expertise. She guides those seeking clarity and courage and self empowerment. And boy, as leaders, do we need to understand that. Hey, Jen, welcome to the show again. Welcome to this episode.
Thank you, Claire. Oh, a lovely introduction. Yes, it's going to be really good. And we're talking today not just about leaders and as in an official professional role as a leader, but also this is for those that either want to step up into more of a leadership role within their personal lives, within their families, and also delving into how each one of us can be a leader in our own right.
Yeah,
So it's
brilliant.
yeah, it's going to be really juicy and hope and yeah, definitely inspiring and uplifting.
Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. So let's dive on in. You know, you're, let's dive on in. What does leadership really mean? Let's start unpacking that word and debunking it. Kind of what in your view does leadership mean? Um, how can our evolving understanding of leadership inspire a new generation?
Yeah, I think that's really important. When we'll talk about that, uh, to inspire a new generation of leaders, and also the types of leaders that we want to inspire, the type of leadership. So I think for me, leadership, good leadership, because there's all sorts of leaderships, isn't there? I mean, I remember being in the corporate world back in the day in the 90s, and there was all sorts of leaders there. There was the really strict ones that led by fear. There was the really fun ones that just let everybody do what they wanted, and it was just a complete mess of chaos. Um, and there would be some that were really good leaders, and I think more and more now, as we're changing, as we're shifting, um, we're realizing that we need a certain style of leadership to create not just a better world within our workplace, but a better world within home, in the home, in our personal lives. So for me, leadership is somebody having a vision or a purpose, a dream. I mean, Martin Luther Martin Luther King, "I have a dream," is one of the most famous sort of quotes. So for a leader, I think they need to have a vision and a purpose. And that could be something that's really small within the home. For example, my vision is to have a really happy, balanced family life where we're all interacting and engaged and enjoying quality time together. That is a vision. And that is a time where you can be a leader. And then you've got, so you can take it from a small micro element where it's within your family, within your social circle, within community, your neighborhood, through, up to sort of high level leaderships in the workplace or leadership on a presidential level. So for me, leadership can be at any level and within any environment. And there are certain qualities and attributes that you need as a leader. So for me, vision is so key and being tapped into that vision and purpose. self-confidence. You need to lead with confidence. If you're not confident, people aren't going to believe in you or follow you or trust you. Communication is really key, being able to communicate what your vision is and your purpose and goals, and also listening to other people as well. Um, and on that, leadership, I think true leadership is taking into account other people's point of views, other people's ideas and suggestions, and looking at things from a bigger perspective, a bigger picture, because it's not about you as a leader, it's not about your ego being massaged. And I think that's one of the, I'm sure most people will agree, that's one of the problems that we have in today's society within leadership. So many people, so many leaders in this world are incredibly focused on their ego. We don't need to name them, I think we all know. um, so good leadership takes courage, it takes neutrality. So taking away your own personal, as I said, ego, and putting forward, making the vision and more important than your own personal self. And that comes as part of intelligent emotional intelligence as well, having compassion and kindness, uh, neutrality in terms of not getting triggered by other people's actions and behaviors, but coming from a place of calm and being grounded and being able to see both sides, and understanding when there's a good conversation to be had, or when understanding when people need space. So there's a lot of awareness around leadership, self-awareness and awareness of others. Compassion and empathy and kindness. That's very much leading from the heart. And authenticity, integrity, vulnerability, I think, is really key as well. The more vulnerable you are, you're then making it easier for other people to be vulnerable, and you're creating a safe space for people to be able to be themselves. And the more you're yourself, the more you'll attract. And I've said this before, but the more you are yourself, the more people you will attract that are like-minded. So if you have a vision, a goal, a purpose in mind that's community orientated, by you being you, you will attract other people that will be there to support and encourage you. And that's another thing, as a leader, to inspire and empower and encourage other people. And it takes courage. It takes a huge amount of courage to step up, even if you're within a family dynamic. I've got five, five brothers and sisters, so there's six of us. And there's a lot of very interesting dynamics. So to stay neutral, and I put my hand up because there was something that came up when I was visiting in the summer, and I was not neutral, and I was really triggered. Um, and that's really unusual for me to get triggered, but it was a very, very sensitive subject, and it was somebody that was talking about it that didn't know enough about it. And on reflection, that's another thing, reflection. On reflection, I know I could have handled it much better. um, but it's having the courage to step up and do things differently and be different, but from a place of making a positive impact, and sort of going against the grain, or going against the norm, if you like. So yeah, it takes a lot of courage to be able to be a good leader.
Hmm. What I love about how you've described leadership is there are so many elements in that, and so many types of leadership that come through. And so, for some people, they may be comfortable with being vulnerable, but then you can have an archetypal power leader that is terrified of being vulnerable. So there's still room for growth in many different leadership styles to become that
Yeah.
whole leader.
Yes, absolutely. And just because you're a certain type of leader now, or you're not a leader now, doesn't mean to say that you can't be that person, that you can't, we've all got potential. That's why our podcast is called Exponential Potential. We all have potential. There is so many possibilities. Um, and if we're open to learning and evolving and growing, we can be those leaders. We can learn to be a good leader, whether that's as a parent, as a boss, as a leader of a community.
So very often the question gets asked, is a leader born or made? And kind of how would you answer that? Is it inherent in everybody?
I think there are certainly born leaders, without a doubt. Without a doubt, there are born leaders that have certain attributes that they were born with, leadership attributes. But everybody has an element of being able to be a leader in some way. Um, and it could be just on one project. It could be just around one subject, one topic. And you can learn the things that you need to learn to be able to be that leader.
Hmm.
But yes, it starts with your own self first, in terms of your self-awareness, and how you are, your emotional intelligence. So there's a lot of learning, and growth that's needed to be a leader. I mean, I didn't just appear like this. I have always been told I was bossy, but that's different. Being bossy and being a leader is a different thing. But I think I would never say I was bossy, although my brothers would disagree.
I think Beyonce would disagree because I hate that bloody word, because you don't get bossy men, you only get bossy women. So I
Yes.
absolutely, but I'll leave that.
Yes, that's a really
The
interesting
soapbox to
point.
one side.
Yeah. Yes, I think I was being assertive.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yes, we all have the ability to be a leader in some way. And it could be a small way, it could be on a grand stage, it could be doing a podcast. It's I think just by leading by example is leadership, and not telling everybody else how to be, but just through you leading by example and being here and who you were born to be is leadership.
Mm. Yeah. So, because I mean, this is something I've come across time and time and time and time and time again, is that so many people don't feel that they're leaders unless it's in their job title or unless it's in their job description. But it is so obvious that they are leaders and good leaders. You're trying to help that to grow. So what can individuals do themselves to tap into their
Mm.
potential?
And I think that's a really good point, actually. I just want to talk about that a little bit before we tap into potential of leadership. When you say, a lot of people don't realize they're leaders when they are. I think mums, I'm going to use mums because most mums are leaders within their
Yep.
families. I mean, it's a nurturing role, it's a caring role, but it's also very, very much a leadership role. Um, so I just, and the way to see if you're a leader is self-awareness and aware of how others interact with you. Are you the person that organizes a group event? When your friends all get together, are you the person that arranges that? Are you the person that people come to for advice, and have questions for you, whether that's in the workplace as a non-official titled leader, but just notice how people interact with you and become aware of the things that you do, and start to look at ways that you are actually leading in your life. So yes, how are we inspiring um, others to be leaders? How to reach their potential? So as I said before, leading by example will automatically inspire others. Sharing your inspirational journey sharing your journey from where you came from to where you are now. Um, so I share a bit about my story about, moving back to Canada with 2 suitcases, £2,000, my dog, and 2 divorces back to the UK. And now I'm living in Italy with an amazing, wonderful man, um, living a life that we love, running, collaborating with Claire. And that's an inspirational story. That's a leadership story because I'm doing things differently and I'm making a positive impact, just not on my life, but on others around me, on my partner, and the ripple effect. So yes, leading by example
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
is one. Yeah, what are you going to
no, no,
say?
go for it. Go for
Mm,
it.
mm,
Just in terms of that next generation, there's a growing amount of commentary really that's saying for leaders, um, to step into that role, to own it, to direct others, to be more present and to be more authentic, and to lead by example across organizations, and to demonstrate, because the number of uh, role models that we have is dwindling, and social media and the media at large focus in on negative aspects or superficial aspects of leadership. And I do really hear your cry to leaders to step forward and show what you do, and unashamedly.
take initiative.
Hmm.
So leading by example, taking the initiative, not waiting to be asked to step up. But if you've got a voice, and we all have voices, if you have a vision, if you have a purpose, that's you feel it, take the initiative and step into that role. And you can learn as you go, and mentoring and coaching is huge to have when you're stepping into this role. Having somebody that can mentor you and coach you along the way to help you develop your mindset, to help you develop the skills that are needed. Because there are lots of skills that you can learn along the way, but you can also make it a lot easier and talk to people that have already done it. Um, so as a leader to inspire others, yes, mentor other people to do it, and recognize and acknowledge and encourage people and
Yeah.
celebrate their wins.
Yeah.
And as an individual, you can celebrate your wins, you can notice. And I think that's really important in the family as well, to acknowledge and recognize, um, when somebody does something that's really quite heartfelt, to really encourage that, create a safe environment, create an environment where people feel safe to be able to be themselves, where they feel safe to make a mistake.
Mm. Because that helps them to grow, almost
Yes,
certainly. And
yes, yes. So, like I was saying, so we were talking about stepping up, but as we're inspiring leaders, encourage people to step up, encourage people to take that initiative, um, and promote their self-awareness. So
mm,
help, I mean, and I know in the episode that we're going to do with you, Claire, there's going to be a lot around self-awareness. But self-awareness is so key. And being aware of others, like read the room, you know,
mm,
um, and encourage collaboration. So if there's somebody that you feel is, as a parent or as a in the office, if you feel that there's somebody that has some leadership qualities and abilities, you could collaborate with them and have them on a project to help you to boost their confidence and boost their experience. Um, so yeah, the it's coming from that place of positivity, and through you leading by example, you will encourage other leaders to want to do the same thing. I remember being in the corporate world, um, and I was an internal salesperson, and I went on a training course, and it was about communication skills. And I just fell in love with the job that that person was doing, which was training and standing up, presenting, and helping others um, improve their communication skills. And she was so inspiring. So that's what I want to do, and I did it. I became a trainer. I became, so it's when you lead by example, you have no idea how many people you're inspiring to do something similar.
Hmm. Now, I want to tap into a couple of phrases that I've heard you mention in other episodes and in your other work, and that's around the concept of a heart centered leader.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, can you describe what is what's a heart centered leader?
I think a heart-centered leader, the emphasis comes from, as it says, the heart. It comes from emotions. But when I'm talking about emotions, I'm not talking about, oh my God, that kind of emotion. I'm talking about compassion, kindness, empathy, taking care of other people's emotional well-being. So coming from your heart, coming from a place of love and
Mm,
kindness, and really making the environment that you're in an open, nurturing, kind, compassionate environment. And it sounds very soft and very fluffy, but when you do that, you really create you create trust, you can create
mm,
really strong relationships, where there's a big sense of belonging, a
mm,
deep sense of belonging and harmony. And when you're in that space, amazing things can happen. So yes, they lead with love and they really truly care for the people they work with. Or again, it doesn't have to be from a work point of view. It can be
mm,
from a home point of view, whether it's social circles or family circles. They also come from a place of authenticity, uh, and being authentic is incredibly important. People know when you're not authentic. People know when you're not being real, when you're being flaky fakey. So again, it's that vulnerability, it's that authenticity and integrity, and leading from that place.
mm. And how does that differ from conscious leadership? Because that's something else that I've heard you use as a term.
Yes, and conscious leadership is that they both can actually go really, really well together. So conscious leadership has a more holistic awareness, a more holistic view, which we're talking holistic, we're talking about the whole. So we're not just talking about we're talking about awareness of self, awareness of others, and then on a broader spectrum, awareness of the environment. So they are, whenever they're making decisions or whatever their purpose is, or their vision, they're considering the impact on both people, the planet, and in a workplace on profit.
Mm,
So that's sort of the holistic view. They're incredibly ethical and sustainable focused because they are focusing on people and the planet. So all their decisions are made from an ethical standpoint and sustainability because they want to create positive change, a positive environment that's not just in the short term, but also long term.
mm,
And it's involving all the people, from their baby. I'm using family a lot here because I want to incorporate this so that people understand that leadership just isn't at the workplace. So right from a newborn or a 2-year old right up to a grandparent, a great grandparent, and in the workplace it could be from the receptionist to the CEO. So, and of course, then stakeholders, shareholders,
mm,
and bigger than that, the environment and sustainability. So they are coming from, so they prioritizing ethical decision making.
mm.
And they're also, when they're making decisions, they're incredibly mindful of those decisions and the consequences of those decisions. So again, they're sort of based on a really ethical compass.
Well, strong levels of integrity, really, I think.
Very much so, yeah.
Mm,
And a really deep sense of purpose that also transcends their personal gain, transcends
mm,
financiability.
mm,
It's really truly to create positive change in the world.
mm, mm.
And then some of the other thing, and inclusive, I can't say it, inclusivity. There we go. Is very important as well, and valuing different perspectives, different cultures, different backgrounds, and recognizing the value that that has and the impact that has within organizations.
Mm. And do you think those are either or styles of leadership, or how can you blend some of those qualities to to create transformative leadership?
I think with the, certainly with the heart centered and conscious leadership, is very easy to blend, because most people that are heart centered um, believe in sustainability and are very ethical and
Mm,
authentic. So there's a lot of crossovers within the two. So you can build that by having a really strong emotional intelligence. And it does complement conscious leadership. But they sort of complement each other, because there's an ability to have an understanding of the emotional impact, as well as um, the bigger picture impact, coming from a conscious point of view. So having when you're making decisions, you're thinking about other people, but you're also doing it with kindness and with love.
mm.
And that,
Yeah.
yeah, that again builds really strong and trusting relationships. And again, you're fostering that trust and collaboration, um, which it brings people together and makes a much more powerful impact.
Yeah, yeah. Because I
Uh,
think, sorry,
mm,
I was going to say, kind of what came through really strongly was particularly around this aspect of conscious leadership, and particularly if you consider maybe aspects of the environment and climate change, and look at Extinction Rebellion, for example, really strong views about the future of the planet and a desire to preserve the planet for generations to come and all of the species that are there, and to halt and challenge some of the practices that are going on now, but perhaps not bringing so much of the heart centeredness that listens and nurtures the discussion, and brings people along on the journey, because the mission is is the core focus. And you can see that with different professional types or thinking types. So, engineers, for example, engineers, very narrow focus on creating an amazing world or an amazing kind of piece of technology that will build legacy, but so focused on that purpose that they perhaps exclude people around them inadvertently.
yes, yes, yeah. And also, I just want to bring out the point of something I was is being for something, not against. So the positivity, having a shift in energy and creating positivity. So rather than being against the way something's being done, you're for how something's been, you're for the change. So let me just think of an example. Well, let's take Black Lives Matter. That's a really powerful example, because they're focusing on, they're not anti race, they're not focusing on the anti racism, which there is, much of that. They're focusing on what matters. They're focusing on the positive element that Black Lives Matter, not the anti. anti-war, anti this, anti that, that kind of creates a different energy. But when
Mm,
you're for something, it feels more uplifting, it feels more positive. Because when you're anti something, there's anger and there's fear. But when you're for
yeah.
something, you're coming from a more heart-centered place.
Building. And that feels like, it feels like a really strong tip for a conscious leader to bring
Mm,
through more
mm.
heart-centeredness is bring the positivity. Any other tips for the conscious leaders?
Um, well, yes, again, inspiring others to become more conscious and heart-centered. So they're fostering a value system. Um, they're sharing their values by, again, leading by example, to create a more positive impact. So,
Uh,
yeah, very purpose driven, very empathetic. Although I would choose to use the word compassionate more than empathetic.
mm,
Um, but yeah, coming from the heart, but looking at the bigger picture that's for the planet, for
mm.
humanity.
So for those heart-centered leaders, those people that recognise, they create a loving and nurturing environment, that they create a place where people can fully play out and feel safe and challenge and thrive. How can they bring more elements of conscious leadership in?
I
Is it
think
of
uh,
something's purpose?
it's again leading. It's awareness, isn't it? It's having open communication about why are we doing this, what's this mission all about, and the importance of that mission, and doing it from a place of love, not from a place of ego, not from a place of fear. But communication is really key about, this is the mission and this is why, and this is what we want to create and why we want to create it.
Mm,
So you're inspiring others to sort of tune into your vision and your beliefs in terms of what's possible. So again, it's that activating possibility within others.
mm. And for those who, again, kind of aren't within a formal role, what steps can aspiring leaders take to develop that leadership approach in them, perhaps within a team when they're not recognized as the leader, or when they don't feel like a leader?
I,
What steps can they take to develop that leadership approach that's, truly centered around love and purpose?
I think, well, I keep going back to it, but it's so true. Leading by example, creating that open, trusting environment where people don't fear stepping forward. Um, Maybe some one-on-one coaching and mentoring for that person as well, and the recognition of the things they've already done.
Mm,
They could give them some exercises of helping them, so asking them some questions about, what do you think you've already achieved in this role?
mm,
What have been your top 3 achievements this year? So having those conversations and those discussions and helping that person see that they have potential and possibility through giving them exercises like asking them what they've achieved, asking them what their aspirations are. So helping them become goal focused, a bit more goal orientated in terms of what their aspirations are, um, and helping them see again not just what they've achieved, their top achievement, but again looking at how people are interacting with them. So
mm,
asking some really good questions to help that person self reflect,
mm,
and what's important to that person, and then giving them a project to work on with either yourself as a leader or with that somebody else in the team, and a project that's important, and allowing them the space and the room that they need, setting them objectives and expectation levels,
mm,
and then allowing them the space, to do it, but also showing them where the resources are for them. Where are your resources? What are the resources that you can pull on for this? And
mm,
helping them step into that kind of role by actually giving them something to work on as as a joint leader. Um, mm,
And I've got to say, I've been a leader for many years and a leader of leaders as well. And and actually, kind of one of the best pieces of advice that I can offer to anybody that's aspiring within the role is volunteer.
right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Put
Yes.
yourself forward.
Yes. 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 Contribute. Yes.
I,
Thank you for
yeah,
that.
because it's the easiest thing I can do is say yes, open up space for someone to, come forward with that vibrancy, with that interest, with that, kind of knowledge, with the desire to learn. It's just, you know just put yourself there, put yourself out there, because as a leader, I know many times I've gone, phew, somebody else can carry the load for a little bit, or I'm really curious about where they go with it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Volunteering, and in a community level as well, volunteer and contribute, because that does boost confidence. That gives you a sense of purpose. In fact, contribution is one of the main keys of life longevity. Contribution and community,
Yeah.
because and it's not doing it from a purpose. Well, I do that for them, and then I feel good. It's just it's a thing when you do contribute in whatever way, yeah, however small, it automatically lifts you, and it's a very fulfilling thing to do.
Mm.
It's up there with gratitude.
For sure, for sure. And it's just, um, yeah, I think it's very easy within many different cultures to feel so disempowered when you're turning up and you're doing your work and then you're going home, and then, or even, I remember many years ago, as a checkout assistant, you turn up, you've got, countless shoppers and and it can be one of the most draining, knackering, exhausting, boring sessions. But actually, if you show up in a different way, if you show up and take charge, you know what it's like. I'm going to make 5 people's day today. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be this person. I'm gonna lift up. You can quite quickly alter the formula. It's just like, just
It,
be there.
it's so funny that was one of my first jobs as well. Check
Yeah.
out, check out. And I actually really enjoyed it. So attitude is really important, having that positive attitude. And it didn't even feel like making an effort, but saying hello to people, engaging. The people, a lot of old people used to come into it was only a little small village,
Yeah.
micro market. And that would be the only time that they would have interaction with other people.
Yeah.
So just having a conversation, hi, how are you doing? Even getting to know who they were, because they were such regulars. And it makes them feel really good, and it makes you feel really good. And that's just on such a simple, small scale.
Mm. And it is those small interactions where you demonstrate the pride in what you're doing.
Mm.
Yeah, that's not, again, kind of, that's a word that's become a bit of a dirty word, or has been captured. But pride in what you're doing lifts other people around you, lifts their standards, lifts, kind of their recognition of what they do, and they step up as well. It can be quite infectious.
Absolutely. And the same, energy is infectious. We know this.
Yeah.
So, if you're around a lot of positive people, then you're going to elevate even more people. And if you're around a negative environment, it can be quite tiring and draining to remain positive for long periods of time.
Mm. And
Um,
I think, kind of, where we're talking about both conscious leaders and heart centered leaders, there's a real risk um, that kind of the energy equation is a bit one way. So for the heart centered leader, it's a give, give, give. Nobody's giving back, and you
mm,
empty out your well. Or for the conscious leader, sometimes the challenges are so great that you only make a small dent, and it
Hmm.
feels like you're not getting anywhere. So, how do you stay energized? How do you stay grounded as a leader in those styles?
I think, you saying empty well, it's your number one priority is to fill your cup and to take care of your vibration. So I mean, I say self care, but it's so much more than self care. So, yes, ensure that you keep your cup full, which means having a really good morning and bedtime ritual. So having a ritual in the morning that revitalizes and energizes you, that uplifts you. Gratitude is huge. Stretching the body, breathing, spending time looking at nature first thing in the morning. Reset breaks through the day is really important. I've spoken about those before, and it could just a 5-minute break away from your phone, away from your computer, away from what you've just been doing before you go into the next um, part of your day, the next project, or when you're noticing your body, noticing when your body feels achy, noticing when your mind starts to lose a bit of focus and concentration. Notice when your computer starts slowing down or not doing what you want it to do. They're
Yeah.
all, yeah, they're great clues that it's time for you just to take a short break. And it really refreshes you. Breathe, take some time, just go outside for some fresh air if you can. Change your environment, go to a different room. I put on music, um, and with my headphones, and I have a bit of a dance, which I love to do because I can. I'm at home. You might not be able to do that in your office.
Well,
um,
under your desk you can. You can. Just like
you
wiggle
could
your
maybe,
ankles. They're not
but
going to
probably
see.
actually, yeah, you could have a little dance party under the table. You could go to the loo and put yourself in a cubicle and dance in the cubicle. I'm sure you can find space somewhere. Um, Mindfulness, meditation is very, very helpful in the evenings or in the mornings if you're into that kind of thing. Um, Meditation is so incredible. It might take a while for people to get into it, but there's so many YouTube resources on lovely, even just music, meditative
Oh,
healing music. I listen to it before I go to bed at night. Setting boundaries. So, like you were saying, give, give, give. There's a certain point where actually you set some boundaries, and you you know when you need to set a boundary because you feel it's when you start feeling obligated to do something or slightly resentful.
mm,
That is a feeling your body's letting you know that actually it needs to be a no. It's a yes for you and a gentle no to that person. So there's ways that you can create boundaries without offending other people, but if they want to be offended, that's their problem, not yours. But there are ways to communicate those boundaries.
mm,
Um, Delegation, like you were saying, Claire, about um, you're doing everything. It's nice for somebody to take the lead on something. So delegate. Who else can help you, work with you? Who else can you give it to? Does it really need to be done right now? Does it need to be done at all? So taking off the pressure is key. Um, and things like prioritizing tasks. So that there's a lot of things that you can do, but my favorites are connecting to nature, having a really solid morning and evening routine, taking reset breaks, setting expectations at the right levels, not
yeah.
over what's the word I'm looking for? Over
Promising.
promising. Thank you. Over promising. You
Yeah.
know. So yes, there's many things that you could do. Again, it's self-awareness, being aware of when you're feeling tired, when you're feeling drained, because that leads to overwhelm. And then when you're overwhelmed, you can't be a decent leader.
No. No.
But yes, there's many things that you can do to stay energized and uplifted so that you and inspired, because you as a leader, you still need to stay inspired. And as you said earlier, Claire, when you're dealing with bigger things like sustainability and ethics and having a big impact on this planet, that can be very, very draining. So it's
Mm,
important to discover what floats your boat, what lifts you up, what energizes you.
for sure. And
So
the
yeah,
world needs leaders.
yes. And creating space for you as a leader, not just to energize and revitalize you, but also to open you up so that you have space in your head to receive ideas and solutions and be creative. Creativity is so key. Yes.
It's yes, it's a fascinating area, and it's so important. You know what? I think we're going to have to spread into 2 months worth of leadership content because we've got to get this message across that if you don't think you're a leader, you probably are, and you have the power to step forward as a leader.
Absolutely. And yeah, just yeah, look at ways how you're leading right now.
Uh, and what a wonderful range of ideas that you've offered. Kind of your guidance. You know, is is incredible, and I can see that when people work with you, they go through that. They start to see kind of the assets that they have. They start to see the opportunities around them, the small behavior shifts, the small changes in thoughts, and the powerful impact that that can have. So before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or words of encouragement for our listeners?
I yes, we are all born with possibility and potential. We're all born to flourish. So look at ways, get a journal, write it down. Look at ways at how you could be a leader in any small way that you think you can be, whether it's small or big, whether it's just, whether it's with some friends, in a group of friends, in the family dynamic, or if it's on a big stage. Write down what's important to you. Write down what you're passionate about, and then look at ways of how you can engage and inspire others to do the same without coming from a place of telling people. But how can you lead through example? How can you be the best person today? How can you lead? This is what I'm going to end on, Claire. Da, 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 da. How can you lead from love?
Oh, I got tingles. Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your insights with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to dive into this topic with you.
Thank you, Claire. I've really enjoyed it. And I hope we have inspired you, our listeners, to either look at ways of improving and growing as a leader, or looking at ways of how you can become more of a leader in your life or at work.
And as usual, like, subscribe, share, lead others. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is trying to kind of just add the odd dollop of leadership and challenge and support and nurturing to this planet right now. So thank you for joining us all, listeners to Exponential Potential, and we'll see you again really soon. Bye.
Bye.